got an automobile section. What's in the garage?
Welcome back, folks. 2012 State Rep Jason Isaac's annual barbecue out here in Driftwood, and we're at the Salt Lick Pavilion. And to my left, you'll notice this person. He's been on my show when I was AM, FM, all that stuff, and now that we've expanded globally now with Be First in Media, my friend Jim Cardle, Texas Insider. How are you?
Craig, it feels like old times back at the last legislative session.
I'll
Good
tell
to
you.
Run into you.
Well, you never know where you're going to run into people. Jim walks up and he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And I showed him what we were doing, and I wanted to invite him on the show. What a great event today, Jim. This is going to be awesome. I know we got rain out here, so people are going to be forced to come inside, but what a great place.
We're thankful for the rain, and we're thankful for representatives like Jason Isaac. You're right, exactly. Nothing wrong with a little moisture except maybe keeping a couple folks home, but I've been hearing about your new show. It's a pleasure to be part of it so quickly.
No, absolutely. What we're doing with Be First in Media, it's Be First in Media leading the conservative internet revolution.
Well, the name in and of itself, I got to compliment you. Again, on the cutting edge, how can one not be attracted to want to be first in anything? You've captured it, Be First in Media.
The reality is, look at events like this, Jim. Where's the local media? They don't come out. The media does not come out to things like they should, they used to do. And we, the people, we need to know what's going on in races. Ted Cruz is going to be here tonight also. I've had him on the show multiple times, and I've had Jason on the show multiple times. I've had many other people running for office and currently in office. Local media today does not show up.
And you know this, the growth patterns and the changing that's going on at record pace in the media, but the pattern is for more what I guess they call hyper-local media is exactly what this would be, and you're right, it should be something that would be covered by what most folks know as their mainstream media, but maybe they'll get here, I don't know. They're going to be behind the Craig Bushon curve, that's for sure.
You'll notice the fist. Okay, you'll notice that it's a real fight, right? Traditional revolution look, but from conservatives.
There you go.
The conservative revolution on the internet. For us to get the message out, because that 18 to 29-year-old vote, those younger people who live on the web, they're not watching traditional TV, they're not going listening to regular radio, they are on the web, they're on their smart devices, they're on their iPhone 5s now that are out. So we're doing everything we can to go across all different genres within BFIM, and the fact of the matter is, hyper-local is the key, Jim. I was at a gala event down in
somebody else wanted Craig Bushon there.
Well, it was funny. We were down in with Dr. Rosemary with the TCRP.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The gala event that happened last week.
Yes.
Okay. And 250 people were there. Paul Workman was there. I had him on the show. Multiple other people.
Another state rep.
And we were the only ones there. There was no other media to be seen. There was 250 conservatives in a room with 13 different politicians that were there, okay?
Target-rich environment.
No one was there, except us.
Well, you and I have talked about this before over the years. With Texas, for instance, even if you just get to the Ross format being 60+% of the statewide electorate votes Republican, probably throw in the independents, you're upward of 65-70%. So in Texas, it's already built-in conservative. And what you're talking about, the fist and taking it to the next level in terms of ways to communicate, combining the two, they're there for the engagement. But somebody's got to do it, and you're to be congratulated for getting out
Well, I
there.
appreciate that. You know what it reminds me of? It was back, and before I forget, you know what's so funny about this today?
What?
When you were on the radio with me, when Jason was running for state rep.
We had him in the studio.
We had him in the studio.
I remember that.
Okay.
In his
and
boots and all.
Here we are now for re-election. And folks, this was not planned. Folks, this is something that I had no idea Jim was going to be here. Obviously, the bottom line is that here we are again. We're battling on the front lines. Okay.
And it's happening all the time if you're just smart enough to get out there and work a little bit.
It's funny. I was pulling up something on Paul Sadler, who you know is running against Ted Cruz.
The Democrat,
okay,
yes.
For the Democrat side. And know what he said?
What?
He said that not this election, possibly not the next election series, the following one, the state of Texas will be a Democrat state again because 160 years of heritage was not wrong, by his opinion. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm all for being optimistic, and certainly they're in a hard spot. And we've heard that before. They're talking about the Hispanic vote coming online and
that's
the
a big,
demographic
that's
growth.
right.
But, you know, Paul Sadler can say that if you talk to the state demographer or some of the other long-term political minds in the state, they're saying more in the neighborhood of 2040. Not, I think if Sadler's saying 3 election cycles now, that'd be 6 years. So he's thinking before 2020, ain't no way that's going to even come close. Because what they're assuming, first of all, is that Hispanics are going to vote lockstep almost for their side, the Democrat Party, which is anything but a given. So more power to them. It's a free country, but
what do conservatives need to do to keep growing their message and not do what Paul Sadler said is going to happen, lose the state of Texas? Because the state of Texas is a stronghold for a conservative mindset. The state of Texas, if it goes down,
heaven help
that's
us.
the biggest domino in the whole game.
Well, that's a good question, and it's one that gets talked about, but possibly, in my humble little opinion, misanalyzed sometimes. What do Republicans need to do? I think it's certainly the case that work should be done and that you have to find common ground with any demographic. But you look, for instance, just at the last couple conventions, the last couple weeks, I was going to say, the Democrat convention and the Republican convention. You had our own Ted Cruz there speaking at the Republican convention. You had Governor Susana Martinez from New Mexico. She was actually on not the short list for vice president, but she is a story in and of herself. You look at Marco Rubio, you look at the fact in our state house, we even had a Republican Hispanic caucus made up of about 13 members last time. So what do we have to do? I don't know necessarily that it's any more than having open arms and welcoming people with like-minded values, because the values, sure enough, line up pretty consistently. You look just at the Hispanic demographic, they're frankly more conservative than us regular white guys. They hunt, they're gun owners, the wives run the household, they're religious with their Catholic.
Why is it that the Democrats believe, because you're right, the Hispanic vote, they are very conservative, they're traditionally Catholic.
Yes.
Okay. Falls right into the backyard.
We know they're harder working.
Of the Republican Party, of the conservative mindset. Why is it that we have to fear so much about, as their growing population and the younger generation gets to be of age to vote, why we can't capture their mindset? I mean, why is it that the Democrats feel that they have such a stronghold on their minds? I think that if anyone has a weak argument, it would be the Democrats.
Well,
their history for helping people raise up out of poverty is horrible.
And that's another very, very good question. I think, to be honest, if you're going to really look at how to answer that question, we have to recognize that we're fortunate here in Texas, because whether you're in Texas or Colorado or New Mexico or Florida, or frankly in New York City, there's a huge millions probably of Hispanics there. But if you look in each of those different state situations, Democrats have always had the perspective that if they give something from government, their constituents or those that they're giving something to are going to be beholden to them. And that may have been the scenario and the dynamic that's worked in the past, probably a legitimate one. But anymore in this day and age, you look at Hispanics in Arizona and New Mexico, they're going to be more of Mexican descent. You look at Hispanics or Latinos is probably the better phrase. In Florida, they're going to be more of Cuban descent. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. But the Democrat mindset that they don't have to do anything other than give government services to a certain demographic, the mold's going to be broken, especially in this new generation where things are, you're the example, where things are more at your fingertips, more individualistic driven. It's more called what is demand driven as opposed to supply driven. We don't just have ABC, NBC, and CBS on the TV anymore. We can go to the Craig Bushon Show online, on our phone. A number of different things, the moons are aligning. So they have history to kind of analyze and give them a reason and a mental gymnastic to get to answer that question. But time will tell. There's certainly many arguments to prove differently now.
Absolutely. And again, folks, you're watching the Craig Bushon Show live from beautiful setting here in the backdrop. It's a drizzly, rainy day. That's a blessing for us here in the state of Texas. But it's the state rep, Jason Isaac's annual barbecue fundraiser. He's got a special guest, Ted Cruz. You've seen him on the show many a times. You've seen my friend here, Jim Cardle from the Texas Insider. Always know, go to texasinsider.org. But the bottom line is, Jim, this is why we built this in the way we've done it. Because I believe that it goes back to the kind of debate with SOPA and PIPA and all that stuff, right? Where there's this mindset.
I'm not going to get you started on SOPA.
Lamar Smith and all. Well, you know how upset I was
do.
about how we're pushed back, we're pushing away the youth, and we need the youth. The reality is there is a new mode of communication, and it's multifaceted. It isn't like you said, ABC, NBC, CBS. Our parents traditionally had three modes of television, and then radio, and then newspaper, and that was pretty much it. Now it's a la carte. It's anything you want it to be. So we went this route to let the youth know, the young American. When I say youth, I mean 30 and below. Okay, that's the way I look at it. To let them know, we hear you. We understand. We're in the fight with you to make sure that we keep the freedom of the press, the freedom of the internet, and the freedom of communication. Because the reality is, if we can't lock arm in arm with the next generation, I'm afraid that Paul Sadler is going to be correct, and that we're going to lose the next generation to the conservative mindset.
And what's a way to do that is be out there communicating. Dillinger used to say when he was asked, why do you rob banks? And the answer was, that's where the money is. Interesting telltale sign, about 3 months ago, I was in bed watching the 10 o'clock news. I won't mention the network, but it was Channel 3 here in Austin, who had a story going on with an Austin statesman. So here's a TV station that partnered with the newspaper reporter on the scene, and then they had a third party in by Skype. So even the news media is trying to, branch off. But what that does to the current media staff, the current media writers, the media pool, it's forcing, again, and it's all demand driven, forcing news sources to reflect their constituency, hopefully, and not be so subtle ideological indoctrination like we've seen before. And then it's just a function, like I said 5 minutes ago, who's out there. You're going to be, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And your being out there is going to lead to dynamics where it could be you with another mainstream media source being covering a live event like this.
Well, that's absolutely right. And Jim, it's so wonderful to see you. We have not talked in a while, okay?
It's been too long.
This is what I like. Look at that. The Heritage Foundation, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States. It almost feels like a Tea Party event, doesn't it? You really think about it.
Here in Driftwood, Texas, that's right.
The fact is that, we just came out of the conventions, okay? We just saw, obviously, this last week's been a big problem. There's Jason Isaac over there. How you doing, Jason? Hey, you can swing around and say hi. Oh, Jim didn't have to get up. What's he doing? How about over here? Jason, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, Craig, good to see you. Good to be on with you.
Well, Jim and I were just talking about, the conventions just end. I said, I feel like, they got the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Everyone should have this in their pocket. But there's a real push to get back to the basics, to get back to America. We could say the Tea Party's helped in that aspect too. This unity within conservative mindset. I mean, this is what this is all about, right?
That's exactly right. I think one of the criticisms from President Obama has been that Mitt Romney's going to take us back 100 years. I think he needs to go a little further, and let's go back a couple hundred years, back to when we came out with the Constitution. We're a limited form of government. The best government that governs for us is the smallest one possible, and that's exactly what we need. We need those ideals. It may be old, but it's so wise, and that's exactly what we need.
Well, I was saying earlier in my monologue that we're out here today. There's this, I guess it'd be the second annual barbecue out here.
It's our second one at the Salt Lake, but it's our third annual barbecue roundup. We started 3 years ago on the campaign trail at a little red barn up in La Ventana with about 125, 150 of our closest friends. And now tonight we'll be near 400 people here. We've been doing good things and working well for the people of House District 45, and I'll talk a little bit tonight. I think I'm up for my performance review, as I like to refer to it as, and I think I've done good work for the taxpayers here in this district, and I hope to continue to go back and work and do things that we've done. Balance the budget, cut spending, and reduce taxes.
Well, we were just talking when Jim stumbled across me sitting over here doing the show, and the last time that we sat down and talked, it was when you were initially running.
That's
and
right.
You were in studio on the show, and here we are today. What's changed between then and now? What are the concerns that, obviously you ran on purpose then, and now you're running for re-election on purpose. What are the concerns that we need to address for the state of Texas right now? This is a big time of politics. You got Ted Cruz who's going to be here tonight. Obviously, there's a huge Tea Party wave that's pushed him also. The Republican of the Tea Party, I can kind of see doing this, which is great. I think it's good for the American mindset. But what are the things that need to be addressed now in this election cycle?
Well, when I ran 2 years ago, I ran because I was frustrated with the taxing structure here in the state of Texas on our businesses. They put in a new taxing system in 2005. We saw 10% of businesses in the state of Texas see a 500% increase in their taxes. That's unacceptable. We've done very well, but I believe in better. I believe we can do a lot better. So what's changed over the last 2 years with me personally is my resolve. I have so much more resolve than I had 2 years ago because I know a lot more about where we need to have a much more efficient government, be more fiscally accountable and responsible to the hardworking taxpayers that are out there all across the entire state.
I was saying earlier, you're a young gun. I said it before you were even elected. I said young gun. And what I mean by that is that this young energy, this vibrant, youthful feel of America. We're a young country. We're the youngest first world nation on earth, and look at all the great things that we have done. And what I love about you personally is that you don't fear talking about how great we are as a country, how great we are as Texans. We have our flaws, we know that, but we truly do, by and large, the best for people and the best for the world. And we just need to fix and tweak a few things. Obviously, what's happened within the Obama administration and what's going on in the Middle East right now, that's a huge problem, okay? But a lot of people don't feel it right here, right now, as they want to eat barbecue. It's not like we have militia people going down the streets. So we do have a great defense of this country, but we can't take that for granted. We have to keep our eye on the ball, and I see that in you. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, absolutely. And you talk about, we don't have militia going down the streets,
right, exactly.
But we do have people going down the streets right now that think we're not doing enough, that think we're not paying enough. And they are fighting so hard from the left to increase our taxes, to increase government spending, to increase regulations, to try to tell us how we have to live our lives, what kind of health care we have to have, where we have to live, what kind of transportation we have to have. And it's slowly but surely ticking away at our freedoms. And so we've got to stand up and we've got to fight for that. And that's what you've seen over the last few years. People saying enough is enough. And we all believe in better. We believe that we can be better as a nation. And we need to do that by a smaller government that gets out of our lives, that doesn't slowly but surely take away all of our freedoms. And that's what I'm all about. We've got to stop that attack from the left, because I believe that I know what's best for me, not my government telling me what's best for me.
Well, what's interesting? I watched a recent interview of Paul Sadler, who's running against, obviously, Ted Cruz for the Senate seat, very powerful seat, and he believes that within a couple election series that the state of Texas could move back to a Democrat-ran state. And where I push back on that is that, first, are we at risk in the Republican Party and as conservatives? I think we are at risk if we don't show the young American, the young Texan, that we're there for them. And that's why we launched Be First in Media. And you'll notice that it says, Be First in Media, leading the internet revolution. And it's really, we're leading the conservative internet revolution. Why? Because the mindset of the youth, they don't watch traditional TV. They don't listen to traditional radio. They have their iPods, their iPhones, they have their smart devices, and what do? That's how they get their mode of information. So in the Conservative Party, my goal is for us to push to win over the hearts and minds of the next generation of voters too, because I think we have the responsibility to do that.
That's right. There's a lot of people on the left that are trying to make this race just about education, and they're trying to make all the races about education. And I agree. Every single race has got to be about education, about educating people that we want them to have more freedoms, that we want them to keep more of their hard-earned dollars. Talk to them about the freedoms that have slowly been taken away from us, and get that information out there. And that's why if you get a paycheck or if you give a paycheck, you should be conservative. You should want to keep more of that. You should want to grow your business. And government doesn't create jobs. Government gets out of the way, has sensible regulations, and private industry. People like you and me, we create jobs. Not only do I work for a big corporation, but I'm also a small business owner, creating jobs throughout this state. And that's what we need, and the government needs to get out of our way and let us do that. And so, yes, we have got to educate voters that they really are conservative. They don't want the government telling them what to do and how to do it and when to do it. They want to have their freedom. But that's what everybody wants more than anything else, and they don't realize it is slowly but surely eroding away. And that's what would happen if this state turned Democrat. We would look like California. We would start losing companies left and right. I just talked to a business owner from Chicago who 3 years ago moved his business right here to San Marcos, Texas.
Well, the bottom line is I wish Webster's Dictionary would get into conversations, because if you just look up, when you just talk about spending alone, or as a business owner, balancing your checkbook, spending your money. Let's see, if you spend your money liberally, obviously you're not going to have much of it left, versus if you balance your checkbook conservatively.
Yep.
And there's this stealing of language. You follow what I'm saying? There's this, they're redefining, on the left they're working very, very hard through a lot of different modes, different mediums, to re-educate or to program people to believe that conservative actually doesn't mean what it really means. And to be conservative and to run a conservative government is the only way to run government. And like you said, we the people do what we do best, make jobs, help each other through our churches, pay tithing if that's what we want to do. We don't need the government everywhere, every place, all the time. We need them to do, in my opinion, protect the borders, protect the sovereignty of this country, protect, make sure that we have safe streets and healthy drinking water and things like that. But I don't give them much after that. We, the people, are the ones who have built this country. We're the ones that will take it out of what I call the ashes, if you will. And I think the mindset that you're taking and that you're wanting to go back in and serve more in the state of Texas, I applaud you for that.
Well, thanks, Craig. You'll see that Democrats and Republicans, it's a majority of both, would prefer that we reduce spending than increase their taxes. So I'd almost argue that a majority of Democrats out there are conservative. Right. They want a more fiscally responsible
with
government.
With their own money. Not with my money.
Yeah.
With
that's
their
exactly
own money.
right. You're right about that.
That's the way Democrats, they want to keep theirs, but they want to take mine.
Yes.
And I'll say this in closing, because I know you got to get back, and I appreciate you coming on the show, and appreciate you having us out here. You're welcome back on. We're going to be going on and off, recording and uploading. And again, folks, you're watching the Craig Bushon Show live on Be First in Media. We're out here at the 2012 Jason Isaac BBQ. It's a wonderful thing. There's going to be about 400 people out here. And, the bottom line is this, in my opinion. Keep pushing as much as you can when you get reelected to make sure that we don't forget why we're here and why you're there and why I do what I do to bring the message out. Tell the folks where they can get more information about you. There's going to be a lot of people who watch this show who have not voted before, and this is their first time.
That's right. IsaacForTexas.com is the best place to go to find out about us. You can find our Facebook link there, our Twitter link there, our phone numbers there as well. IsaacForTexas.com, all spelled out. Check us out there. And when you get involved, or when you stay involved, I really like what one person told me on the campaign trail 2 years ago. We're completely behind you, but we're going to be watching you. Pay attention to what we do once you elect us to work for you. Make sure that we're spending your tax dollars wisely. It's not the state's money, it's our money. Make sure that we're also spending our money where we need to be spending it. And that includes our campaign funds and our state funds. And are we being good stewards of our taxpayer dollars? That's something that I've really tried to do over the last 2 years. I'll talk a little bit about this tonight. I've been to 4 legislative conferences over the last 2 years. These are all conferences that state taxpayers can reimburse me for my travel. I simply do the easy thing at my office and I fill out a form and I get reimbursed for my hotel, my airfare. It's a significant expense. 2 years ago, right before I went to my first conference, I said, you know what? I don't feel right about that. I don't think that's a good use of taxpayer dollars. The people of House District 45 sent me here to be a good steward of our tax dollars. So I refuse state money and use campaign funds to take those trips. So when you go and you can do an open records request through the Office of the Comptroller and look at the reimbursements that have come to my office for travel, it'll be $0. It's an easy open records request to fill out, but I'm proud of that, and I'll continue to do that. And if I don't have the money in my campaign account, then I'm not going to go if I can't afford to pay for it myself. So, I think that's somewhere where I've been good, and I would encourage other people to see what other people are doing with their tax dollars.
Well, there you have it. Jason Isaac leading by example. Pay attention to what's going on. I call him the young gun. Heck, when he wins again, he'll be, I guess, a sophomore, and I don't know if you can call him a young gun anymore, but the bottom line is this. The fact is, we, the people, have a choice, and that biggest exercise of choice is to vote. So pay attention to what's going on. Jason Isaac,
thanks, Craig. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Glad to be on Be First in Media.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, there you have it. It's very, very good stuff. You know, I know that Jim Cardle is. Come back over here, Jim. Jim's been hanging out. How we doing? We good on signal and all that? We okay? Okay. Hey, folks, we're going to tweak a couple things. Again, it's Craig Bushon, Be First in Media. We'll be right back. You all right?